Have you ever bought a piece of furniture and just wondered, where did the wood actually come from? Well, for investors and for a lot of us, that question is becoming absolutely crucial. Today, we're going to dive into how companies are starting to measure their environmental impact, and we're going to focus on one specific and really powerful metric, the wood footprint.
So the framework we're exploring comes from the SASB standards, and as you can see here, they're now part of the IFRS Foundation. Now, this is a huge deal. The IFRS sets the global rules for financial accounting. They make sure a dollar is counted the same way in Tokyo as it is in Berlin. So when an organization like that takes on sustainability, it's a massive signal that this data is starting to be treated with the same seriousness as a company's financial results.
So here's our game plan. We're going to start with a quick look at what these SASB standards even are. Then, we'll zoom way in on one specific industry, building products. From there, we'll look at the key issues for them, get into the real nitty-gritty of how a wood footprint gets calculated, and then we'll pull back and talk about why this one number matters so much.
Okay, so what are these standards, really? The best way to think about them is like a nutritional label for a company. But, instead of telling you about calories and fat, they give investors a clear, standardized way to see how a company is performing on really critical sustainability issues, the kind of issues that can actually affect its bottom line.
And the genius of these standards is that they are not one-size-fits-all. SASB has developed 77, that's right, 77 different standards, each one tailored to a specific industry. And this is so important, right? Because the environmental risks for a software company are totally different than for a car company. That specificity is what makes the data actually useful and comparable.
And every single one of these standards is built on this really logical 5-step foundation. First, they define the industry. Then, they identify the most important sustainability topics for that industry. For each of those topics, they give you specific metrics to measure, super detailed technical protocols on exactly how to measure them, and finally, activity metrics, so you can compare a huge company to a smaller one. I mean, it is incredibly thorough.
All right, so that's the theory. Let's see how this whole framework actually works in the real world. For this explainer, we're zeroing in on just one of those 77 industries, building products and furnishings. We're talking everything from the floors in your house to the lumber that built it to the desk you might be sitting at right now.
And the standard is super clear about what this industry covers. It's any company that designs and makes home improvement stuff, furniture for your home or office, and those big structural materials like plywood. Basically, if it's a product that helps build or furnish a space, it probably falls into this category.
So, for these companies, what are the big sustainability hotspots? Where are the major risks and opportunities? Well, the SASB standard boils it all down to 4 main areas that matter most. And here they are. First up, how they manage energy in their factories. Second, the chemicals they're using in their products. Third, the product's entire life cycle impact, from cradle to grave. And fourth, this is the one we're going to dig into, how they manage their wood supply chain. And look at that, it's purely quantitative. It's all about the hard numbers.
Okay, let's get to the heart of it. We're going to break down that last topic, wood supply chain management, and really look at the single most important metric a company in this business has to report.
So this is the big question, right? It sounds kind of simple, but to get a number that's consistent and that you can compare across companies, you need a really precise method. How do you account for all the different kinds of wood products a huge global furniture company might be buying? Well, it all starts with this definition of what to count: wood fiber materials. And this term is intentionally broad, and that's the whole point. It's designed to close any loopholes. It captures everything. Not just raw logs, but also pre-cut parts like chair legs, semi-finished stuff like cabinet doors, and even fully finished furniture they buy from another supplier to sell. Pretty much the only thing left out is wood they burn for energy.
And what's so amazing is that after all that complexity, it all boils down to one simple, incredibly powerful number: the total weight of all those wood fiber materials the company bought in 1 year. Just imagine a giant retailer. This single number combines the wood from their lumber suppliers in Canada, their furniture factories in Vietnam, and the recycled pulp for their packaging from Europe. It all goes into one figure.
And here are the crucial details for getting that number right. First, the unit, air-dried metric tons. This is so important because wood's weight changes a ton depending on how much water is in it. Air-dried creates a standard baseline, so you're always comparing apples to apples. Then, look at what gets included: virgin raw materials, so freshly harvested trees, recycled materials, and even finished goods. This means a company can't just outsource making the furniture and pretend the wood in those finished products doesn't count. There's really nowhere to hide. Every bit of wood fiber that comes into the business has to be accounted for.
Okay, so we've got this number, measured in air-dried metric tons. Why? Why go through all this trouble? Why does this one metric matter so much? For investors and, honestly, for the rest of us?
It matters because of this. The source document puts it very bluntly. This industry uses a massive amount of wood, and if that sourcing isn't done sustainably, it can cause real, lasting damage to ecosystems, to biodiversity, and to the people whose lives depend on those forests. This metric, this number, is the first step toward real accountability.
And this isn't just about being ethical. This is about managing serious financial risk. This quote from the standard itself says it all. I mean, just imagine a popular furniture company is suddenly linked in the news to illegal logging in a protected rainforest. The damage to their reputation can be instant. It can crush their brand value and send customers running to their competitors. This metric forces a company to know what's happening deep in its supply chain, making that hidden risk visible to everyone.
So let's just end with this thought. We started out talking about a nutritional label for companies. But what if that level of transparency came all the way down to every single product you could buy? If you could see the total wood footprint, the energy used, the chemicals involved, right there on the tag next to the price, what would you choose differently? Because that's the future this kind of reporting is trying to help build.